Hi there, it is Monday, and I have a great conversation with JL Cauvin joining me today to kick off the week. That starts at about 46 minutes into the show today. Also, I've got your headlines, I've got your clips, and I've got you. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you had a great weekend, a good weekend. I hope that you were able to do something fun or many things fun, relax, maybe get away from the news and all of the craziness that is happening in our world and find some peace, some joy, and something good to eat. Maybe you had some blueberry pie or a moons over my hammy. I don't know, but I hope you enjoyed yourself. I'm happy to have you here, and I hope to see you at tonight's Hangout. It is Monday, and so I will host a Hangout. There is plenty to talk about, so let's get to it. I like to start every day's podcast with the good stuff, something good to make you feel good, to make you maybe laugh, maybe think something positively in this descent into chaos and all of the terror that is seemingly visiting us all day. And before I get to all these scary news stories, I like to give you some good stuff. I saw this clip bouncing around yesterday. This is J.B. Pritzker, who is really showing a profile and courage in these times, of course, the governor of Illinois. But this is him at a commencement address not long ago.
The best way to spot an idiot, look for the person who is cruel. Let me explain. When we see someone who doesn't look like us, or sound like us, or act like us, or love like us, or live like us, the first thought that crosses almost everyone's brain is rooted in either fear or judgment, or both. That's evolution. We survived as a species by being suspicious of things that we aren't familiar with. In order to be kind, we have to shut down that animal instinct and force our brain to travel a different pathway. Empathy and compassion are evolved states of being. They require the mental capacity to step past our most primal urges. Cruelty is seen by some as an adroit cudgel to gain power. Empathy and kindness are considered weak. Many important people look at the vulnerable only as rungs on a ladder to the top. I'm here to tell you that when someone's path through this world is marked with acts of cruelty, they have failed the first test of an advanced society. They never forged new mental pathways to overcome their own instinctual fears. And so their thinking and problem solving will lack the imagination and creativity that the kindest people have in spades. Over my many years in politics and business, I have found one thing to be universally true. The kindest person in the room is often the smartest.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. That is good stuff. And here's another piece of good stuff. This is a conservative Christian faith leader who is also a father of a trans boy. And here he is talking about his son, his love of his son. And I thought this is a very important clip that I wanted to share. This, I think, is some more good stuff.
This left-right thing, and it's really not. There are Republicans, there are Christians who have transgender children. I had a daughter before who I love dearly. I have a son now who I love even more, if such a thing is possible. You know, when your child gives you the reason for why they're suicidal, which is, Dad, I think I'm meant to be a man, I'm transgender, the worst thing you could do is argue with them, debate it with them, tell them it's wrong. I mean, that was never on the list of options for me. I wanted to understand. When I signed up to be a dad, it was a lifelong commitment. It was unconditional love. With Ashton as my guide, we figured it out. And I'm just thrilled that he made it because he really was on the edge early on. I was scared to death that I would lose him. But to see him reach this point and see him thriving and become the person he's always meant to be. He's meant to be a man. My son has a masculine soul. I really believe that. All I'm doing really is just telling the story of being his dad.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I thought that was good stuff. And how about this from the Obama Foundation? They posted Happy Black History Month yesterday.
Hello, everybody. Hey. We know it is Black History Month. When you hear somebody say, hey, Michelle. From our earliest days, Black history has been American history. We're the slaves who carried the stone to build this White House, the soldiers who fought for our nation's independence. African American culture has profoundly shaped American culture in music, in art, literature, in sports,
Through dance, they have told the stories of who we were, who we are, and who we can be.
Still dancing at 106.
And during Black History Month, that's really what we celebrate. We celebrate the people who have shaped our heritage. We remember those who struggled for our rights and our freedoms, and we reflect on how far we've come and how much farther we have to go.
1 month, a year is not sufficient to celebrate the power of a movement. That's something that we have to do, each and every one of us, every day, living up to their example, then handing it on to our children and our children's children.
Yeah, there you go. That was the minute, 30-second or so clip that they posted at the Obama Foundation, kicking off and celebrating Black history. And, you know, I've learned a lot about Black history and Black culture through stand-up comedians. And so I thought I would play one of my favorites, if not my favorite comedian working today. It's the great Roy Wood Jr., who I've known most of my career and absolutely adore. Here he is talking about the difference between having a black tour guide or a white tour guide at a civil rights museum.
You got to respect a white person working at a Black History Museum. You got to respect that. That was a choice. He white. He could work anywhere. He chose a Black History Museum. You know that job interview was a son of a bitch. How many extra questions did he have to answer? Because you black and old, it ain't shit to work at a Civil Rights Museum. You just walk in. That's me on the picture. What you filling out paperwork for? You on the wall. But if you white, you know, they grilling that dude. Asking him all kinds of questions. They had nothing to do with Black history. All in that dude's face. Your paperwork looks good. Everything checks out. Real quick, at what temperature do you deep fry catfish? 350. That's what. Okay, that's what.
Oh, so funny. All right. Well, hopefully that gets you started today. That is your good stuff. Try to do it every day, and it's a lot. So send me your clips, your ideas for the good stuff segment as well. standupwithpete@gmail.com. Now it's time to get to your headlines. This is where it gets real serious. Hard to know where to begin with headlines today, but I think probably the most important news usually has to do with whatever Elon Musk seems to be doing. He is basically the co-president. He's constantly making announcements about what is happening and gleefully taking pride in that he has apparently killed USAID, which is a very important program which administers federal aid, $50 billion. Also, his team that he has of young, like 6 guys who've apparently been identified, Heather Cox Richardson writes about it in her newsletter today, took control of the Treasury's payment system, thus essentially gaining access to the checkbook, which the United States handles about $6 trillion annually, to all the financial information of Americans and American businesses. And apparently it didn't stop there. The Associated Press yesterday reported that 2 top security officials from USAID tried to stop people associated with Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, from accessing classified information they did not have security clearance to see. The Trump administration put those officials on leave, and the DOGE team gained access to the information, which is terrifying. Of course, Musk is unelected. He has no legal authority. Neither does DOGE, but they're doing it anyway. And the news that DOGE has taken over the U.S. government computers, not the only bombshell this weekend. No, the other is that Trump declared a trade war over the weekend with top trading partners of the United States, Mexico, Canada, and China. Although his first administration negotiated the current trade agreement, the one that he is now calling a disaster between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. Saturday, he broke the terms of that treaty, slapped 25% on goods coming from Mexico and Canada, and 10% on Canadian energy, 10% on goods coming from China. Said he was doing it to force Mexico and China to do more about undocumented migration and drug trafficking. But while precursor chemicals that make fentanyl come from China and undocumented migrants come over the southern border with Mexico, Canada accounts for only 1% of both. Further, Trump has diverted the immigration and customs enforcement agents combating drug trafficking to his immigration sweeps. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense. and it's dangerous, of course. The Mexican president retaliated and wrote, "We categorically reject the White House's slander that the Mexican government has alliances with criminal organizations, as well as any intention of meddling in our territory," and has promised retaliatory tariffs. China noted it's been working with the U.S. to regulate precursor chemicals since 2019, said it would sue the U.S. before the World Trade Organization, and Canada's prime minister announced more than $100 billion in retaliatory 25% tariffs, and then spoke directly to Americans, and I've got that audio for you coming up. Also on Friday, the FBI's New York field office told its staff that they are in a battle of their own as good people are being walked out of the FBI, others being targeted because they did their jobs in accordance with the law and FBI policy. The head of the New York field office, James Dennessy, vowed that he is going to dig in. I'll be talking to Frank Figliuzzi, former FBI agent, on Tuesday for a Wednesday show. In other news and developments, the Pentagon is removing dedicated office space from 4 major news organizations, including the New York Times and NPR, to make room for right-wing outlets like Breitbart News and One America News, so becoming more and more like Russia every hour, apparently. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is visiting Panama because Trump has threatened to seize the Panama Canal. The CDC ordered its scientists to withdraw any pending publications that mention terms such as transgender, immigrant, or LGBT. You can't even mention it, apparently. The FDA issued its most severe recall for some chocolate and yogurt-covered products because of unlisted ingredients that could be deadly for people with allergies. Are they going to continue to do that? I wonder, is the FDA going to be able to continue to do that, or are they going to ban that as well? Also probably should have mentioned when I mentioned the tariffs and news about that Dow futures dropped more than 650 points after Trump hit U.S. trading partners with tariffs. So the market is in disarray over all of this, and hedge fund bros are shorting just about everything. So they're planning on a market crash, I read. So that's great. It feels good to see all of this. And even Trump said that there will be some pain, apparently. He said that. What will the reaction be? Are they just going to blame Biden and Democrats? How will this play out is the question I have for all of my Trump-supporting friends and family and anybody I know that supports Donald Trump and MAGA, which is not people that I talk to on a regular basis, but I do wonder how this is going to play out in the near term. And I do have a theory that I'd like to float, and I haven't really seen it much yet anywhere, but I'm sure others are coalescing around this idea, by the way, that Elon Musk, who now has vowed to unilaterally cancel hundreds of millions of dollars worth of government grants because he's gained access to the Treasury's vast payment systems. We'll see if he's able to do that. But the theory is that because he believes the woke mind virus is the most dangerous thing in the world, he's doing everything he can to kill the woke mind virus. So that being an ideology that people have around things like gender, sexual orientation, what they would refer to as wokeness or political correctness, just a general way of thinking that they've labeled all of these insidious kind of ideas that it's so damaging and bad. It has been for him, according to him, because his child is transgender and is, quote, dead to him. He no longer refers to his trans child. And I feel like this is all very personal. And he is so far out there, and I think in a way limited in his ability to think around and about the consequences of his actions because of his anger driven by fear around his trans child. He is doing whatever he can to kill the woke mind virus, which is why you're seeing the banning of words and the firing of anybody who believes this or that. But I think it's important that we understand what he refers to as the woke mind virus are simply what we refer to as civil and human rights. He wants to roll back civil and human rights for everybody that isn't just like him, a white South African. So good luck, America. But I do think that that's an important way of thinking about this man's entire motivation and driving force that people don't identify. We all have these different kinds of interests and motivations in life. I want to think that mine and yours are much more wholesome and pure and thoughtful and consider the collective and are driven by ideas of solidarity with each other. But it seems like Elon Musk's is to destroy the amazing gains that we've made in the arena of civil rights and human rights and general human progress around living together in a multicultural society, because he don't like it. He does not like any of it. It's really pissing him off. That's my theory, and it helps me understand why he is the way that he is, why he bought Twitter, why he bought a presidential candidate, and why he has basically bought his way into the American federal government, and he's going through it, and he's trying to get rid of the things that he doesn't like, that he thinks are contributing to whatever he refers to as the woke mind virus. And it's a theory I put together just by reading so much reporting on the guy, but many of you know him better than I do, and I really wonder what you think of that theory, if you think there's a grain of truth to it, if it's the whole truth, or somewhere in the middle. I look forward to hearing back from you tonight at our Hangout, which is one of the reasons I love our Hangouts. We have these very thoughtful discussions, and I should say it's usually on a point, an idea, or an argument not brought up by me. I'm just there to keep it on the rails, on the tracks, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one at tonight's Hangout at 8 p.m. East. You better be there. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic, and welcome to several new subscribers that have joined up over the past week or so. It's great to have you here. The stand-up community has been slowly building since 2009, first at SiriusXM through 2019, 10 years there together, and then right here on this podcast ever since. First few months I did 3 days a week, and then I was able to move to every day of the week, and I still really desperately want to find a way to go live, but I am here every day with this podcast. I interview the smartest people I can find about the most important issues that impact all of us, new guests all the time, and I've got a whole bunch of great new people, authors, academic scholars, journalists coming up over the next few weeks alone. Very, very excited for some of the bookings that we've got here. Let me know who you want to hear on the show and what issue you'd like to hear discussed. As always, my email is standupwithpete@gmail.com, and my phone number is 209-782-6387. That's right. I have a phone number. You can call that number and leave a voicemail anytime you want, a message, a question, an idea, a criticism, a compliment, a piece of advice, anything you want. 209-782-6387. I'm bringing back the Stand Up with Pete Dominic voicemail line. It's always been there. I just never, ever mention it. It's not anywhere, but I pay for it every month because I'm an absolute idiot. So give it a call, and I would maybe play your message. Let me know if you want me to play it. If I can't play it, if it's private, let me know. And you couldn't probably remember that number. It is in the show notes. On every episode of this podcast, I will now include the voicemail number. You can call and leave me a voicemail. Leave the show a voicemail. Okay, that's it. Those are your headlines. Now let's get to the clips that I've got for you. A whole bunch of good clips. And let's start with the Canadians. First and foremost, I thought this was important, from the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. How much longer is he going to be Prime Minister? Of course, he resigned a few weeks back. Okay, he remains at the helm until a new Liberal leader is selected. We should probably talk about more with Canadians and about Canadian politics right here. That's what that's making me think. Anyway, here he is. We're going to hear a lot more from all kinds of Canadians, including booing the national anthem at a hockey game. The American national anthem, Canadians booed at a hockey game in, I think, Ottawa a couple days ago. Anyway, here's Justin Trudeau.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes. It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment, and materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more. And as part of our response, we are considering, with the provinces and territories, several non-tariff measures, including some relating to critical minerals, energy, procurement, and other partnerships. We will stand strong for Canada. We will stand strong to ensure our countries continue to be the best neighbors in the world. I want to speak directly to Americans, our closest friends and neighbors. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to an affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. They will violate the free trade agreement that the President and I, along with our Mexican partner, negotiated and signed a few years ago. Together, we've built the most successful economic, military, and security partnership the world has ever seen. A relationship that has been the envy of the world. Yes, we've had our differences in the past, but we've always found a way to get past them. As I've said before, if President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us.
There he is, Justin Trudeau. That is, I think, yesterday. But also, we heard from Chrystia Freeland. We heard from a lot of Canadians, all types of Canadians. But Chrystia Freeland, who might be the next Prime Minister of Canada. I used to work with her at CNN. Longtime listeners would have heard her on the show. I was looking through some of her old exchanges, and I even asked her to host the show. Maybe she hosted the show at one point. I don't know. She may have. I couldn't find that. Anyway, she was always the smartest person in the room, and everybody knew that when we were at CNN or when she was on the show. I was talking to her about one of her books, and she's much smarter than Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And while they don't have the power and leverage that the United States of America does, they do, I think, play the long game, and they're more calculated and thoughtful. And I wouldn't want to be on the other side of an argument, negotiation, or trade war as Chrystia Freeland. Here she is talking to CNN's Fareed Zakaria yesterday, proving my point.
Our preference and our hope is that you guys are going to come to your senses. Our preference and our hope is that we can go back to a win-win North American partnership. I mean, currently our trade should be governed by the USMCA, which we negotiated with President Trump. When we signed that deal, he said it was the best trade deal ever. So what we really want is for all the Americans who are listening to say, what the heck is going on? You mean we're fighting with the Canadians? And to get back to a reasonable, mutually beneficial relationship. That is our preference.
And when you have thought about this thing, you've talked about, 100% tariffs on some things. You talked about a boycott of American goods, which would be not a formal legal thing, but you're just urging Canadians to stop buying American goods when they go to grocery stores. Is it also, are you also thinking in your proposals of doing something on oil? You know, we import a lot of oil from Canada.
Fareed, I'm glad you mentioned the boycott because that is already happening across the country. Americans have to understand how hurt and, frankly, how furious Canadians are. Our sovereignty is being challenged. And so, yeah, regular Canadians across the country are coming up with ways to stand for Canada, to fight for Canada, to defend Canada, but mostly to say to our American neighbors, Guys, just cut it out. Just stop it. This is a terrible idea. And yes, we are going to use all the tools in our toolbox. You mentioned a little bit earlier how the United States depends on China for critical minerals and metals that you need for semiconductors, that you need to build electric vehicles. Well, guess who also produces those? Canada. You depend on us for a lot, and we are happy to work together. But it's got to be a two-way street.
So you did negotiate with Trump, and so you do have a sense of him. And I'm wondering, what do you think is going on? Because the fentanyl reasoning, is plainly not important. Canada, I think, sends 0.002% of the fentanyl that Mexico sends, that passes through Mexico. It's all really coming because of American demand for it. But he then had talked about making Canada the 51st state, which is obviously, again, not going to happen. What is he doing? In your view, what is he trying to do?
Look, that is, of course, a question first and foremost for the president. You're totally right, Fareed, that the pretexts for beating up on Canada are totally ludicrous. I think we all do know one thing about President Trump. The one thing he respects is strength, and if he sees weakness, if he smells weakness, he pushes harder and harder and harder. And so what you are going to see, what America is going to see, what the world is going to see from Canada is total strength, total unity, and a very smart surgical strategic approach.
A smart surgical strategic approach. So that's not going to be nothing. She's specifically going to be targeting, I'm sure, people living in red states with the tariffs and not buying their products like orange juice in Florida, I heard, and whiskey in Tennessee, rather Kentucky. And I'm not done with the Canadians, who I am with in this dispute. That's the shitty thing. I mean, most of us are absolutely with the Canadians. When you're a member and you're a citizen of a country who makes a trade deal and your country breaks the deal for no reason at all, then you look terrible. I don't support people breaking deals for no reason or to regain leverage this way. You have to have this is maybe not the rule of law necessarily, but what do you do when people constantly break deals with you? In your life, your neighbors, your coworkers, your family members, it often ends a relationship. It's your word. It's a deal. And in this case, it's internationally illegal to do, but he's doing it. And so I'm with the Canadians who are booing us. And I'm not done with Canadians because here is Charlie Angus. He's a member of parliament. And I think he was on like one of the Midas Touch channels or something.
We are here this morning, my friends, as an unlikely group with leaders from across the political spectrum who've come together with cultural leaders, artists, academics, athletes, labor activists, and Indigenous militant activists. We represent the incredible regions of our beautiful country, and we are here for one reason. Our nation, our beloved Canada, is under threat. It is an economic threat, but it's also a threat to our values of decency and inclusion. It's a threat to our sovereignty and our very future as a nation. The threat comes, of course, from the President of the United States, a convicted felon and known predator. He's threatening massive tariffs to try and break us as a people. But the threat is also being driven by the hate algorithms of the oligarchs like Elon Musk. And there is the threat from people in our own country who would sell out our birthright to appease the gangster class from Mar-a-Lago. That is not going to happen.
All right. There you go. Charlie Angus, who is a member of parliament in Canada. And there are a lot more like him that agree with him there than aren't, I guess. But we'll be learning more about Canada. Let's go to Scotland, however, where we heard from a Scottish official who didn't much like the leadership of his country supporting in any way or looking like they might support Donald Trump, much less congratulate him.
The First Minister offered congratulations to the convicted felon Donald Trump on his re-election. Writing officially on behalf of the Scottish Government, he wrote that he is sure Scotland's cultural and social ties with the US will flourish during the presidency of a misogynist, a climate denier, a fraudster, a conspiracy monger, a racist, a far-right politician who tried to overturn an election result both covertly and by inciting violence. Words fail me. What social and cultural ties does the First Minister really think will benefit from a relationship with such a...
Yes. All right. There you go. Sorry that got cut off there. But now let's go to the fight against Trump, Elon Musk, and everybody supporting him, starting with one of the most important in the fight. It's Democracy Docket's Mark Elias, whose work I think you should definitely support. He does really good work, and he's out there talking all the time, everywhere, about that work and why it's so vital. Here he is.
We need a new opposition movement, which is different than a resistance. We need an opposition movement that is prepared and steeled for much more aggressive tactics from Donald Trump, and is also willing to set aside the norms. You know, I mean, Merrick Garland gave his last speech to DOJ on his way out the door about the importance and the success of norms. I would ask everyone watching this to ask yourself, how well has that served us now? And so obviously we all need to act within the law. We all need to act within the rules, but we need to fight hard, and we need to fight to win. And that means we need to fight in court, by bringing aggressive litigation to protect against authoritarianism. It means we need to stand out in the town square like we are doing right now and be willing to say without any fear, or at least with setting aside any fear, that we are not going to be back down. We are going to be stronger than the billionaires are. We are going to be stronger than the corporate America's leaders who have failed us are. We are going to be willing to stand up and call out right and wrong is wrong. And we need to hold the Republicans accountable. We need to build campaigns for the future that will punish Republicans for being as cowardly as they are in this great moment of trial and tribulation in our country.
Mark Elias doing the good work over there at Democracy Docket. Here is another fighter. This is the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, who pulls no punches when it comes to MAGA and Donald Trump.
Look, we should have taken some signal from the idea that at the front row at Donald Trump's inauguration, he had literally the wealthiest people in America standing right behind him. He thought they were the ones that he should show off to Americans. They're the ones who are going to get the massive tax cuts that he's planning that are only going to be affordable if he cuts services for middle-class Americans and working Americans and most vulnerable in the United States. So I think it should be clear to everybody, and Democrats need to be standing up and speaking out in this moment and not being mamby-pamby about how they're responding to what Donald Trump is trying to do. He may have failed last week in the attempt last week, but this is his aim. He's going to keep trying to do it over and over and over again, and that's taking away things for the middle class and working class people in our country need.
Also thought this was good. Naomi Klein, who is a writer, author, Canadian herself. I've interviewed her several times. She's talking to Zateo's Mehdi Hassan, who is exasperated, and this is what she had to say.
Sense, Naomi, while we get this conversation going about shock and awe, just some of the things that Donald Trump has done in 10 days, just a few. I just want to run through them very fast. He pardoned January 6th insurrectionists. He pulled America out of the climate change agreement, the Paris Agreement again. He signed a bunch of executive orders trying to end asylum at the southern border, trying to end DEI in government, trying to end birthright citizenship. He said ICE can grab people from churches. He called for MSNBC to lose their broadcasting license. He fired DOJ people. He fired NLRB people. He illegally fired 18 inspectors general for the federal government. He tried to freeze federal grants and funding. He said clean out Gaza of all its people. He sent 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. He threatened Denmark. He threatened Colombia. He threatened Panama. He renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. He told Mark Milley and...
Mehdi, I think you get it. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I could keep going, but there's a lot.
You could keep going, and we'd be here all day.
But that really does overwhelm the media, the Democrats, the public. Where do you focus your attention when you're being shocked and awed like that?
Well, this is the whole idea for Unshocked, which is we have to pick out the signal from the noise. And that's part of understanding that this is a strategy. It's designed to make you curl up in a ball and give up. It's also designed to make you do their work for them, right? So I think part of what we're seeing is, an executive order that is patently illegal, or many of them, right?
Yes.
But, to talk about a recent one, the appropriation of funds that were allocated under the last government. They have no right to do that. They know they have no right to do that. But what they successfully did is scare the hell out of people, right? I mean, this is not just about overwhelming the senses. It's about fear, right? This is the other thing Bannon is talking about right now, is he's talking about peace through strength, right? So they're doing a few things to just show that they're willing to do anything, right? And sending these messages of, you could be next.
All right, there you go. Naomi Klein and Mehdi Hasan. Here is the always brilliant Catherine Rampell, the Washington Post and CNN. She was on Abby Phillips' show talking about the nonsense DEI with a really good point.
One thing I want to add to this discussion, besides the career effects on people of color and women and other groups, other underrepresented groups in government, among other positions, who may suffer because of the comments that Trump made about DEI causing these plane crashes, is that Trump surrounds himself with lackeys who have historically been shown that they are motivated to sort of backfill and retrofit evidence to fit whatever his predetermined conclusion is. So if we want to prevent tragedies like this from happening again, I would not trust whatever investigation they put together, because Trump has already determined that the cause of this problem is DEI. If there's something else that's lurking here that could put people at risk again, we may not find out.
I actually do. I've talked to a lot of aviation experts this week. I have confidence in the NTSB. That is a gold standard agency in this country and honestly in the entire world of aviation. But I mean, to her point, I think there are questions about whether this is going to be a witch hunt for the evidence to support this claim. They are going to be hunting down the people who fit the DEI narrative in order to prove, he was right all along.
Right. Abby Phillip talking to Catherine Rampell on CNN. I thought that was interesting. Head over to MSNBC. I thought this was good. Michael Steele warning Democrats.
Y'all need to chill on this kumbaya bipartisan crap, because at the end of the day, here's your headline. Republicans shoot down Democratic request to ditch party line immigration push. They don't want to work with you. They're not going to work with you. They have the House, the Senate, and the White House. Let them choke on that. Do not help them out because they don't want your help. They're telling you they don't want your help. So y'all need to just come to the table real and understand that the person sitting on the other side don't want you at the table. Get up, take your coffee, and go into another room.
Michael still said, when they go low, y'all better go toe-to-toe.
I think the American people want to see elected officials be serious and work together.
No, they don't.
Yeah, no, they don't. Who is that guy who said that? No, they don't. Ridiculous. I mean, I think that's a ridiculous notion. Maybe you don't. It's a nice notion. We'd love to think that, but it's unfortunately not the case. We live on completely different planets. It'd be amazing if we could make pragmatic compromises, but we can't even get that done. Even when Republicans support and propose legislation of their own, then Democrats are like, okay, yeah, we can get on board with that. They then cancel it because they want to continue fighting their children. You can't negotiate with them in good faith. It's really, really terrible, but I do agree with that Michael Steele notion. All right. I also thought this was interesting, just apropos of nothing. I mean, it doesn't fit in any other part of what I'm talking about here, but I heard it on Friday nights. MSNBC's The Last Word. The great Lawrence O'Donnell had Sully Sullenberger on, the pilot who landed his plane. Of course, you know who Sully is. And he asked him only one question around the politics or the politicization of the crash.
I don't want to draw you into politics, but if you have a reaction to what the president said today about this, please share it with us.
Not surprised, disgusted.
Captain Sully Sullenberger, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right. Well, that was pretty succinct. Well, it's also Black History Month. We've started Black History Month. This is the first show in the month, I think. And I thought we should probably include some Black history lessons each and every day because they're trying to erase them, and many of us didn't get them or forgot them if we ever did. Here is no one better really to talk about it than Nicole Hannah-Jones. I'm not sure where this clip is from, but I think it matters what she's saying here, of course.
This is why they ban our history. They ban our history because Black history, by
definition is political.
That's right.
Because black people, by definition, are political, right? Our history is political because every story of American greatness, every story of American exceptionalism you want to tell, here we are off to the corner. Say, how do you explain us?
That's right.
If all this is true, why are we here? If all this is true, how do you explain how you suppressed our rights for 350 years? How you bought and sold our ancestors? How you claim to be democratizing Europe, but denying violently democracy for black people here. So we're the most inconvenient people to the story of American exceptionalism. Right. So they want to ban our history because we give lie, right? We reveal the lie of this country.
Right.
And we are heroes of that story. So what the research shows is that when you teach black children black history, they do better academically.
Absolutely.
This is not shocking.
That's right. It's right.
Right? If you see yourself in the story, then you have a powerful sense of who you are. Sure. And I mean, this is why they ban our history, because once I got a little taste of black history, I became incorrigible as a student. I was challenging everything, right? I would go up in social studies like, where are we? Why aren't you talking about this? What about this, right? And so all of a sudden, you don't just accept.
Oh, no, the clip cut off. I don't know what happened there, but that was really important. I'll continue. So please send me those Black History clips, whatever you want me to play and share. Send them over. standupwithpete@gmail.com. I can always use your help in finding these really good pieces of audio or things to read and share during Black History Month. We'll talk about it more at tonight's Hangout as well. Also wanted to share this piece of white history. This is Ronald Reagan warning about any demagogue who would start a trade war. I saw this clip going around and shared it on many of my social media platforms, including Facebook yesterday, as well as the Wall Street Journal's argument, some excerpts from the Wall Street Journal's argument against Trump's dumb, unnecessary, unwanted trade war. But here's Ronald Reagan in his radio address when he was president.
Our peaceful trading partners are not our enemies. They are our allies. We should beware of the demagogues who are ready to declare a trade war against our friends, weakening our economy, our national security, and the entire free world, all while cynically waving the American flag. The expansion of the international economy is not a foreign invasion. It is an American triumph, one we worked hard to achieve and something central to our vision of a peaceful and prosperous world of freedom. After the Second World War, America led the way to dismantle trade barriers and create a world trading system that set the stage for decades of unparalleled economic growth. Yes, back in 1776, our founding fathers believed that free trade was worth fighting for, and we can celebrate their victory, because today, trade is at the core of the alliance that secure the peace and guarantee...
Oh, not again. Another clip is cut off. Is that 3 today? My apologies. My sincere apologies. I don't know what happened. I must have been under the influence while pulling some of these clips. I wasn't. I don't know. Okay, well, sorry about that. But now it's time to end on a laugh, which I try to every day here on the audio before I get to my guest. And let's go to my favorite, Jimmy Kimmel, who on Friday night, after offering condolences and saying all the right things about the horrific crash that took place the day before, and then playing a clip of Trump saying that it's common sense that this was DEI, came out of that clip and then went on, I thought, this very funny series of bits.
I mean, this is... If a straight white male pilot had injected a little bleach into that helicopter, none of this would have happened. And by the way, it may have been a straight male white pilot, it may have been 2 of them. For all he knows, the cockpits, the control towers could have all been full of straight white men. But Trump, he hears the word Black Hawk and he's like, oh, if that hawk had been white. Seriously, though, are there people who voted for him good with this? Every time there's a shooting at a school, they're like, it's too soon to be talking about gun laws, but never too soon for Trump to point his finger. A terrible thing happened. All he had to do is go out there and say, this is a tragedy, offer some comfort to the families, to the military families, promise to get to the bottom of it, but he can't do that. Because he's callous, he's racist, he's sexist, and most of all, he's stupid. He's a deeply stupid man. This is, to blame this on DEI is it's like blaming 9/11 on hummus. It makes no sense. I think maybe he gets jealous when a disaster gets more coverage than him. He's like, I'm the biggest disaster. You point that camera at me right now. You almost have to hand it to him. The sheer number of ways he finds to be a dirtbag, it's kind of miraculous. You'd think you've seen them all. He's like, feast your eyes on this one. And no one from his side calls him out on it. Even the billionaires are scared of... Remember back in 2021, Meta suspended his Facebook account after he maestroed the riot on January 6th. Well, Trump sued them, and guess what happened? They settled out of court. Meta has agreed to pay him $25 million. $22 million of the dollars will go towards Trump's presidential library. That's L-I-E-brary, in case you're wondering how to spell it. According to the Wall Street Journal, this deal has been in the works since November when Trump threatened Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. He told him he wouldn't be brought into the tent until the case was settled. So Zuckerberg scurried over to Mar-a-Lago with a big oversized check like he hit the Publishers Clearinghouse. Even at 78 years old, Trump is still bullying nerds out of their lunch money.
All right, there you go. That's all I've got for you. Put a lot into that first almost hour of today's show. Hopefully you appreciated that, and I know you might have just come here for the interview, which is why I always tell you when it starts, you can skip ahead to it. J.L. Cauvin is my guest today. He'll join us in Las Vegas live at PODJAM. That is March 28th to 30th, of course, and you should hire him to do a cameo. You should listen to the archives of his amazing podcast that he just wrapped, and we'll see what's next for Rain on Your Parade. Stream his comedy specials. See him live, jlcauvin.com. Support him on all the social medias. So here we go. JL Cauvin and I from late Sunday night. JL Cauvin is here, and I'm happy to see you here on a Sunday. Lots to talk about, and you predicted a commercial airline crash, I feel. I don't know if you did, but I bet you did.
No, I know maybe I'm more religious than the average stand-up with Pete Dominic listener, but it's either real or it's not, and Trump is either a unique evil presence in the course of human history or he's not, and I think we're going to start to see frogs falling from the sky pretty soon.
You made a hilarious video plus commentary. I included the whole thing in the news update last week because your Trump impression referred to White Hawk helicopters, which I thought was about as. What do you make of him coming out and aggressively blaming DEI initiatives for the horrible midair collision?
There is a phrase, and I know Professor Eric Segall will like this phrase, but reductio ad absurdum. I think I've mentioned it before, which is a legal term of if you take something to its logical conclusion, it becomes ridiculous. And Donald Trump is approaching that level where he's proving in scary ways how absurd his movement is. It's dangerous, but it's also very absurd. Like he has reached this level where it's when an experienced pilot crashes into a plane, it's obviously race and gender programs at play. You know, and there's really no limit to how he can apply that for his supporters. I don't know that there's anything that could happen that he wouldn't be able to spin to his hardcore supporters as, we know Trump's the man. We know he's right. So obviously something had to happen, and whatever he says, we'll accept it.
You basically said that they should just swap out DEI for the N-word with the hard R, get it over with, and sort out the bodies later.
Yeah, because we still have this society where the amount of people attempting to seem smart in my YouTube comments, and for people who are fans of Rain on Your Parade, I know I'm going to have to come back with a podcast format, but I think these hybrid kind of impression commentary videos are filling the gap and doing pretty well for me.
I like it.
But it's hearing these people try to offer, like, all of a sudden they're into nuance and context. When it's defending Trump, they're like, let me ask you a question. How many of the helicopter hires have been diversity pushes and less qualified than the people they replaced? And I'm like, I know you think you're sounding like a conservative scholar trying to justify racism, but you're dumb. I can tell you're dumb because you're trying to find a way to validate Trump speak without just saying blacks. And chicks, it's remember John Wayne, when men were men and we got shit done. It's, dude, you're commenting on a comedian's YouTube. You're not getting anything done. The irony of being told about how things used to be by some guy going, I'm in a YouTube chat on a comedian I've never heard of. I'll show him what real men are.
You think anybody that, likes Trump, supports Trump, saw him come out and have seemingly zero sympathy for the victims of the accident? I liked everybody juxtaposing every other president's commentary and comments and brief comments after previous disasters, like Reagan on the shuttle Challenger. They slipped through the Shirley bonds to get whatever he writes. And then Trump just comes out and goes, the helicopter could have gone left or right or up or down. Why didn't it?
I'm surprised we didn't get a sad exclamation mark. We got a not good, all caps.
That's right.
In his first official statement. I think these people, if Donald Trump were your son, I could understand a sort of, he's not perfect. We didn't always handle things the right way, but my God, he's my son and I love him. And I feel you can't break that bond just with facts and data and telling me he did something wrong. Like, it's a deeper love. The MAGA movement has this parental forgiveness of him that is so pathetic and dangerous. And it's the same way why when Joe Biden didn't have enough signs or big enough rallies in 2020, I was like, yes, because he's going to be my president, not my sports team I root for, not my friend, I don't have to go find a community at a rally of Joe Biden's. I just want him to be president. And so they've created this. There's this great article in The Atlantic, the most recent issue, on it's really scary about and I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it's like it's three initials, but it's that 7 Mountain thing that the evangelicals, like the hardcore political evangelicals, are in, the 7 M words, like, of things we need to dominate. I'm sorry I'm messing this up, but it's just
army of God comes out of the shadows. Tens of millions of Americans, Christians, are embracing a charismatic movement known as the New Apostolic Reformation.
Yes, thank you. That I recommend. It's very scary.
Yeah.
It's like real Children of the Corn type shit, except they're adults. It's like, it's this, they've merged this like Christ-like infallibility with politics and Trump. And it's like millions strong, and they were big in mobilizing the vote. But there's this real, it's that Christian warrior, like it has nothing to really do with Jesus Christ at all. Christianity.
Yeah. Yeah, Kristen Dumas wrote about this in Jesus and John Wayne, the 7 Mountain Mandate, essentially an action plan for how Christians could dominate the 7 spheres of life, government, education, media, and the 4 others posted on the walls like targets at Gateway House.
Oh, and the other, I looked it up actually while I was reading the article, and it was like arts and entertainment, like business. And I remember, I think who's the guy? He's a conservative evangelical. He writes for a column for the Times, David French.
Mm-hmm.
His whole thing, I remember reading stuff he wrote about, I'm a conservative Christian. There's nothing about Christianity that's supposed to be about power and dominance. But we're past that point now. It really has morphed into the same way here. I'll put a theory out there for you, Pete. Just the same way a lot of Republicans love to say the Klan was actually the Democrats. They started the Klan. And they ignore, I think Dinesh D'Souza went as far as to say there was no realignment of the parties, which that's a historian making a statement that is quite absurd.
Wow, you shouldn't call him a historian, but go ahead.
A self-identifying filmmaker and historian. But when somebody says that, are we in a moment in American Christianity where Jesus is going to be like officially excommunicated out of Christianity?
Kind of. I think they've as a militant toughies.
But they've reinvented his club. Do you know what I mean? They've reinvented his organization without his say-so or input. And I was going to make a very deep cut comedy reference about an underling squeezing out a founder of a company, and now it's a big comedy content company, but I won't do that. But it was, to me, that's what this feels like, how Christianity in America is quickly becoming divorced from Christ because he's very inconvenient if you want a political faith based on power and dominance. Like, to them, Jesus Christ is now a dominatrix who steps on a CEO's balls.
Well, that's just one
Prince
element.
Of Peace
though.
has now become the mistress of latex.
It's one element, maybe the most frightening element. These tens of millions of American Christians who are embracing this type of movement. What do you make of the power and influence of a guy like Elon Musk and what he's been able to accomplish in the last 10 days? Getting access to the Treasury payment system sounds pretty frightening.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I think he doesn't probably care about Doge that much. I think he's going to want this information because he wants X. I think one credit card company just agreed to start like processing payments or something on X because he wants to turn X into the everything site or app where you can buy, sell things. He wants to turn it into so I don't know, like Elon Musk is yet another, to the right, he's Tony Stark. To the rest of us, he's one of the awkward dudes on Silicon Valley.
Worse.
Yeah, because once again, it goes through the MAGA filter of Trump approves him, and therefore now the man with man breasts and this weird fleshy sort of sea creature body, he looks like something that, like, when they do the specials of, like, we went 6 miles deep into the ocean and you'd see like an Elon Musk floating there. Look at these weird creatures that live near the crust of the earth. And it's all dangerous, but I think if you've seen my most recent video, and I hate to stick by my guns because my heart tells me that I shouldn't, but there is part of me that has reached I don't want to say hopelessness, but that the lessons need to be much harsher for people. Like, and I'm not rooting for a civil war, of course, but without the Civil War, how much longer would slavery have existed in this country? Decades longer? It would have been intolerable and even greater shame. And I look at the way these people are willing to just gobble up the lies and the stupidity of Trump and the blatant sort of shameless self-dealing. And it has to reach a point, I think, where they can no longer blame Democrats, and that's a point of pain, unfortunately.
We're going to see that probably in terms of prices.
I'm rooting for Canada and Mexico, by the way. Hardcore on this tariff war.
Man, I watched Chrystia Freeland today on TV, and I used to work with her at CNN. She used to come on the show regularly. She was always the smartest person in the room and always the toughest too. And she's now going to she's one of the leaders there in Canada. She might be their next prime minister.
And what does she look like? Just so I can get to the most important thing about her.
What's that?
You've mentioned her tenacity, her intelligence, her leadership, but is she pretty?
I think she's quite attractive. She always has.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I'm back on board then. Okay. Continue.
She's such a sexist prick. The point being, I think she's smarter than Trump. Like you say, you're rooting for Canada. There's only 30 million Canadians, and they're a lot more unified than we are. They have all kinds of issues and so on. But man, this is going to be pretty fascinating, and it could get pretty ugly between us and Canada, much less Mexico and almost every other European country. We've pulled out of USAID. There's a lot of bad things that are going to happen. I'm not sure where the pain is going to land the most, but certainly we're going to see it, I think, in our grocery prices and our gas prices and everything else, energy prices.
And the funny thing is, I always say this, I go, deep down inside, gas should be $12 a gallon.
Well, yeah, if it wasn't subsidized.
That's the unfortunate thing. Like, we get into this cycle where just get gas lower. And I'm like, actually, I wouldn't mind if gas stayed fucking high.
True price. It's true market price and value. The market would then make people want to buy electric cars, obviously.
I still think, I mean, just adding the price and value of carbon pollution to things, that would be all we'd probably need to solve this. Oh, have to take public transportation or buy an EV. Oh, hamburgers are now on birthdays only, like different things like that, but we won't.
Well,
we're going to keep fighting for that. Please just make life the same, no matter how much it costs, the present or the future. Please keep giving me the same life, consequence free, please. That's what we want.
How closely did you follow the confirmation hearings last week of RFK Jr., Kash Patel, and Tulsi Gabbard?
When Trump shot down that plane and helicopter to distract from his horrible nominees, that's right, I'm putting the conspiracy out there. No, I mean, I don't want to say unfortunately, but the news coverage that I watched was pretty focused on the plane crash. I saw like snippets and things. I'm obviously hoping that Bill Cassidy, medical doctor Bill Cassidy, Senator, American medical doctor, those would be three things he would have to shit on to approve Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Health and Human Services Secretary. All three of them should be like slam dunk no. And I think I keep hearing that Kash Patel is pretty much gonna be the FBI director. And I don't think people just that's so fucking weird. That would be, I'm trying to think of a comparable example. Is it Brendan Boyle, the congressman from Philadelphia? He's Brendan Boyle. He follows me on Twitter. That would be like if he became president in 5 years, him naming me like deputy head of the FBI. Like I have to have a little bit of a learning curve before I take over the full job. So he just named me number 2 at the FBI.
But that would only that analogy only works based on your similar lack of experience as Kash Patel. You're not taking into consideration with that analogy. This guy is crazy with the conspiracies. A, and B, you don't want to suck Brendan Boyle's dick. Kash Patel is probably
I did write a children's book called Brendan Boyle Follows Me on Twitter.
Oh, I didn't realize that you had written that.
So it's closer than you think, actually.
I did not realize that you had written that. But yeah, he is the biggest sycophant of them all, it would seem. Kash Patel to Trump.
Honestly, in normal politics, you know what Kash Patel gets to be? A diplomat to some insignificant country. That's the reward usually given to thank you for your support and loyalty. Go be the ambassador to whatever, a nice country. Probably nothing will happen. Enjoy. FBI director is not like a hey, here's, by the way, instead of tipping you on your tablet 20%, I'm going to give you the FBI. It's very scary because he's so unqualified, he's so crazy, and he's such a unlikable douchebag. There's nothing there to hang your hat on and go, hey, you know what? I think he's going to be a good leader of men. I think he's going to really raise morale. You know, something. No, nothing. Tulsi Gabbard is probably, I guess, the most likely to get denied, from what I'm hearing. But all three are in the Hegseth Gates sort of category.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They're fully unqualified, but the idea, apparently the main qualification now is loyalty. And will you carry out Trump's...
How do these senators, I'm sorry, I've said this on your show for a couple of years, I think. I still don't understand how these senators can just go, Trump in secret. I think he's a piece of shit. I think he's terrible for the country, but I'm 67 years old. I'm 80 years old. What am I going to do if I lose my job?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
as a senator and a millionaire, what in God's name will I do with the last 8 months of my life if I'm not a senator?
I also just wonder if these Republicans don't quite understand how terrible things are going to be for them in their states as well. One of the things that you're already seeing be announced is Canada has strategic tariffs put on goods and products made in red states where they have Republican senators like Florida orange juice and Kentucky whiskey and so on. They're not dumb. They're going to punish the people of red states that support him, and so will other countries.
So my organic fair trade kale will still be okay, I guess?
You should be all right there. So you've got the confirmation hearings continuing. It's been, 2 weeks? We're headed into our third week with Trump in charge, and it's every day the headlines are coming in fast and furious with some scary shit. Like I said earlier about Elon Musk having access to the Treasury payment system. The guy in charge of it resigned as a result of not wanting to carry out Elon Musk's minions' orders. Some of these things, maybe a lot of these things, are going to have to be connected to Trump eventually by the apathetic, non-political people who don't pay attention?
I don't think that's the problem. I don't think it's about making connections. It's about gas is $4.90 a gallon. Yeah. Eggs are $15 a carton. You can no longer, your whatever products, your car prices are 20% higher. It has to just be the greed and the selfishness of people. That's it. That it has to just be felt that way. No connections. It has to be Trump's in office. Life sucks.
Right.
That's what people will connect. We've clearly shown that democracy, the ideals, the institutions do not matter to people. The loftier things, whether it's Kennedy saying, ask not what your country can do for you, you can do for your country. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. These collective messages of giving to a greater than yourself ideal, they're done. We're done with that. We are selfie-taking, selfish me people. The 80s, we make the 80s. At least the 80s was that notoriously greedy decade. Greed is good. But even Reagan still, in his actor way, he appealed to people's better nature, even if he governed us, or at least the rhetoric spoke to. I can see why somebody's inspired by Reagan. Look at him. He's a charismatic, upbeat, positive presence. Trump is literally, what if you did worse things than Reagan and were nothing but a cranky, whiny bitch about it? And apparently America's just like, yes.
What do you think of Democrats and whatever you've seen from them, whether it be at the confirmation hearings, at Congress, on TV? They've elected a new head of the DNC. Is there anything more that they could be doing? I feel like in one of your pieces of commentary you posted, you basically said there's nothing that they can really do. So I'm not sure why you're blaming them.
Yeah, I think people love a fiery speech. They love a hot tweet. They love an earnest thing. Like when I saw Sheldon, I like Sheldon Whitehouse. And what did he say? Damn it. I'm already forgetting. I'm losing my memory, I think.
He said something about his zip-up sweater that he insists on wearing under every jacket over his shirt and tie. It's really a lot.
Oh, I don't know if it was that, but he just went hard at one of these nominees. And I can't remember if it was Patel or Kennedy, but it
wasn't Kennedy. They were roommates in college.
Ew. Was it Higgs? It's even the important information is like an overflow. But other than those sort of things, which we all can go, yes, we need more of this, Democrats. I am of the opposite opinion. We need less. I want Democrats to be in I told you so mode. Hey, MAGA, you like a snarky bitch? You're about to get a bunch of them. I want mugs of Republican tears. If we keep fighting, it's is it Chinese finger trap where it's like the more you resist, the more you're stuck or something? Anyway, I feel like the more Democrats complain and shout and say things, it's counterproductive because they're not even giving Trump a chance. All the people, the 5% you want to peel away from MAGA, who can maybe be swayed when conditions change. You've been complaining the whole time about him, and he's just getting started. You're not even giving him a chance. I would say give him let him, as he would let RFK Jr. go wild on health, let Donald Trump go wild on democracy. I'm not saying lay down, don't vote against things, don't bring lawsuits and everything else. I'm not saying literally do nothing, but just do it in a matter of fact. Just be like, oh, today Trump did A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We'll see how that works out. Okay, that's it. That's my press conference. Just letting you know, just checking in, letting you know all the things he's doing. I'm not complaining. This is what the American people wanted. Right. And then when like cities are on fire and eggs are $20 a carton, I'm going to go, no, if I recall, this is what America wanted. So America, enjoy. I'm going to go on a 3-day vacation. And I know that sounds, but I think that is the only way because that's it. I genuinely think that's the only way to cure this country of MAGA is to let it see what MAGA, the reductio ad absurdum, let MAGA at its purest Trump desire is horrible for you and horrible for the country. But if we keep they won't pay as much attention to the effects if they just write off Democrats as always complaining.
Right.
And like I said, it's not to get all of MAGA. It's to get that 5% that maybe is winnable under different conditions. But it has to be seared. We can't do this seesaw where it's like, hey, in 2028, a Democrat will rescue the nation and a grateful nation will tell that Democrat to go fuck him or herself 3 years later as he or she gets routed in a re-election. Like, we can't keep doing that kind of seesaw shit. Not with the MAGA movement.
And what about you personally? What's next for you? Are you still going to be running for president? What's next for the podcast? Where are you posting now?
That's a great question. Obviously, when Mike was taken out by an assailant, namely an employer with better money and health benefits.
The producer of
my producer, Mike. I'm just figuring out like how and when. I'm going to probably start inquiring with some people who've reached out to me as, they might be interested in producing something, maybe upgrade my home equipment. It could end up being like a solo podcast, but trying to keep in mind the framework and the style of Rain on Your Parade, because I don't want it to go too long, especially as people are gravitating a little bit more to some of my commentary online. That's obviously a good time to pivot these people into podcast listeners.
Yeah.
So, but my Patreon, which is only $3, and there have been some very nice signups of people in the Pete Dominic community recently. I'm doing like weekly podcasts there and videos and different things, my book reviews each month. So there's a lot there, and some of it is Rain on Your Parade. Yeah, that's patreon.com/JLCauvin if you want to keep hearing the stuff without a break.
I'm thankful that you're continuing, and I appreciate you hooking up with me on a Sunday night as we kick off another week of chaos. Going to be really exciting what happens this week.
And I didn't say it online, and I won't say it explicitly here, but I just put out, he's got this obsession with William McKinley, because he was like big on tariffs and everything. And I was just like, I couldn't say, I was like, I, for one, genuinely hope he is every bit of William McKinley. I didn't say that because obviously that could be a threat when McKinley was assassinated.
Oh.
And I'm like, so instead I just wrote William McKinley Trump definitely didn't get to the end of the Wikipedia page on McKinley.
We don't want him assassinated. I think that would be very bad. Even if Trump
what's even worse? Just having his ear get shot.
Yeah.
That's actually the worst of all three. Best option, let's be a good patriot. Best option, no assassination attempt. Second best successful attempt.
Yeah.
Worst thing for the country, survives and like a sociopath obsessed with branding and nothing else, pumps his fist.
Yeah.
And becomes a Christ-like figure.
That's right.
That's the worst option.
Yeah. And we never did see that medical report in his ear or any pictures of it or anything.
It healed. I'm like Wolverine. You ever see Wolverine? He heals. You wouldn't believe this isn't a Fauci guy. He heals. He really heals. And he healed. And they said to me, sir, you're like Wolverine.
Do you ever think about like Pompeo and Bolton, who swore their allegiance to Trump and carried out an assassination of an Iranian general, which was his orders, and then lost their protection? Doesn't Rubio see that? Doesn't Pete Hegseth see that? Don't they all realize that it's going to blow up on them?
Oh, not Pete. Rubio, I think, probably has enough humanity. I think, wasn't he unanimously confirmed? Because he's relatively speaking a normal, experienced. I know you have to do the far left. No, they're all. But I'm saying, in normal times, Marco Rubio is a normal partisan choice. And I think Hegseth doesn't have anything to worry about because he's never going to defy Trump. I don't see him doing that. I think he still supports murderers of children. But Rubio is somebody who didn't learn the lesson because he's in the Pompeo-Bolton sphere where, if you state an opinion too forcefully against Trump, your family might be targeted.
Yeah, for real.
Whereas Hegseth, I think, is, no, I'll be the one going after Rubio's family. I'm
right.
Perfectly safe.
Yeah, there is a difference between the two of them for sure. Yeah, but I still feel like a lot of these Republicans that swear allegiance to him, it's like Rick, what's his name? Everything Trump touches dies. Rick Wilson. I mean, it seems to be pretty accurate, pretty consistent, but
it's terrible. It's I don't know. It's just, I can't believe, and that's the other thing. Why don't any of these Republicans ever care? Like, especially Mike Pompeo. Bolton, even from the Trump pettiness, I understand. But like Pompeo, I feel like didn't do enough for Trump to be like, I hope they assassinate you, Mike.
It doesn't take much.
But you know, like Pompeo, what do you know what he did?
I think that he did not go along with the coup after January 6th. I don't think he went with the big lie, I think is what happened there.
Good thing is that Kash Patel won't admit that Trump lost in 2020.
No, he wouldn't do that.
So that's good. It's going to be like, I'm trying not to get too worked up. I want to pace myself. Yeah. You know, the end of democracy is a marathon, not a sprint. But it is going to be very bad. Like, I just, you know, it's this disdain for Democrats. I'm sorry. And I got into it with somebody about Bernie today. I said, here's the difference. If Bernie, who I gave money to because I liked his message, didn't think he would win. So I voted with Hillary. And I liked Hillary, unlike a lot of people. I did. But to me, if Bernie had won the nomination, you know what I would have done? Donated and voted for Bernie. And then I wouldn't have spent 3 years complaining about what Bernie and saying Biden were in there, it'd be better. Right. If Hillary were in there, it'd be better.
I agree with you. I have no patience for that because the idea of just pragmatism.
You're doing the rights work for them. And I get it. I get, you know, like an AOC or even the Squad, they operate within. Joe Biden moved to the left on issues while in office. You can't expect Joe Biden got elected as Joe Biden. So he's not going to become Bernie Sanders. But on the left, it seems if your person doesn't, to the far left, I have to admit, it becomes far left people seemingly complain more about whoever the Democrat is than anything they say about Trump. And I feel like that's problematic. That's why when I was in college, I never got mad at an opposing player for doing something dirty because I was like, you're trying to win the game. And if you can get away with it without the ref seeing, if you can elbow me, I'll be pissed, but I'll be like, that's the ref's job to catch it. I'd get furious in practice if a teammate did something dirty because there are no refs and we're on the same team. Right. And you're trying to fuck up my playing time by making me look shitty with a cheap shot. You know what I mean? So I feel like the infighting on the left, that hasn't stopped. I keep seeing people say, they don't say Trump sucks. They don't say Trump, because that's part of the chorus. They say, this is all, I've seen this multiple times. This is all because the DNC stole the nomination from Bernie in 2016.
No, that's so boring to me at this point.
But I see that because that's like and I'm going, is that so just to be sure, that's the big problem. Because the narrative is, it's not cool to be part of everybody going, obviously Trump sucks. I'm coming with a hot take it was actually Democrats who destroyed the country because they didn't pick my favorite politician. I don't know. All
right, we'll catch up again next week, and you'll be taking the train to Las Vegas because you're not, want to fly under these conditions.
Let me tell you, I'm starting to look less like a coward and more like a genius. But as I'm reading the Max Boot biography of Ronald Reagan right now, I'm still waiting for the pivot where I'm not feeling like I identify with Ronald Reagan. He was a voracious reader. He was this, he was that. He was afraid to fly and took trains everywhere. And I'm like, am I Ronald Reagan?
Oh, God. I can't wait till you get to the end of it and let us know your thoughts.
And I was like, there was that one time where I gave a gun to Iran. No.
I don't think so. I don't think you do.
There will be a pivot. There will be a pivot. It's the John Birch Society is where we go our separate ways.
And I think a couple of other places as well. Reagan warned of a trade war.
He what?
He warned of a trade war.
You know what? I'm going to start going into chain restaurants and asking for the veterans discount because I am a veteran of the Trump trade war.
We're all going to be, I think. Okay, sir. Thank you very much for joining me as always. Much appreciated.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, there he goes. JL Cauvin. Thank you very much, JL, for joining me as always. See him live with us in Vegas in March and go support him. Go to the show notes and click on all of his links if you haven't. That's one way you can support all of my guests. Let them know that you heard them here. That matters a lot. There's so many billions of podcasts, and a lot of these folks do lots of others. I allow them. I know. And so I always let Love it when you let them know that you heard them here. All right, John Carroll writes and performs our music. JohnCarroll.org is where to buy it. Take us out, John.
When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got